taking a step back, instituting a pause, and planning for it ahead of time. So I think, like I talked about with parenting, the time to decide how I'm going to respond to my kid in a full-blown tantrum is not when we're both in the tantrum. That is the worst time for me to go about making a calm plan for how I can safely respond and calmly respond in a way that I'm going to be proud of and that I think is going to be the most effective. The thing that happens with money is because it has so much of these feelings tapped up to it. I saw some hands come up. Um, if it's a question that popped up, go ahead and throw it in the chat because we can circle back on those easy. But yeah, it is the hardest thing about money and all of these issues affecting it is there is so much negative association and so much shame wrapped up in it that we don't want to typically spend time when we're feeling good or when it's not right in front of us thinking about it or talking about it. So we tend to do a little bit of an ostrich, a little bit of a head in the sand, like me for like 7 years being like, look, I know my credit's bad, but that would feel really icky to look into it and think about it. So instead, I am just going to keep going on because I've proven I can live life with it in this way. So like, I'm just going to keep moving on for it. Show of response in the chat. How many of you engage in what I typically refer to as vibes-based budgeting? Like, I know I got some bills coming out. I got a rough idea of what's coming in. I got a rough idea of what I can spend. I'm not super granular about it. And I just sort of have this haunting feeling when I've done too much. That's sort of this like, ooh, I feel like I've overdone it. I don't have the data and I don't want to look at the data because I do not want it confirmed. It's sort of like Schrodinger's budget. For those of you that are not familiar with Schrodinger's cat, it is the idea that like helps explain a physics thing about, I think, specifically locating a particle. But listen, I'm not a physics kid, obviously. But the idea is that there's a cat in a box and the cat is either dead or alive. But until you open the box, the cat is both and or neither. And so a lot of the times, if you really loved that cat, you don't want to open that box because what if you find out it's dead? Well, the box is closed. It's both. So that's my morbid reference to deceased animals. Really, really sorry. Anyone that loves cats, I also love cats. But the Schrodinger's budget of I got a bad sinking suspicion. I've spent too much. I've done too much. I'm not in the right thing. But I don't want to look at it because if I look at it, I'm going to know. And until I look at it in my head, it is potentially overdrawn or bad, or it is potentially fine. And so I'm just going to stay in that space. That I think that right there, that desire to stay distant from your spending habits and that desire, that avoidance of it, that's the kicker. That's the thing that keeps us from making progress. Because as long as money and finances and budget stays a big bad, as long as it stays a boogeyman, no matter, you can have the best budgeting system in the world. You can have the coolest budget notebook that has a great technique and it can be really, really pretty. Speaking from experience, I have tried to trick myself into doing things with like notepads my whole life. Notepads and pens. You could have any perfect system, any software, anything. And if you still feel negatively about yourself in regards to money and negatively about money and financing in general, none of that stuff matters because you're not going to open the notebook. Because we're not going to do that thing. That is why we have to work so hard on stepping back from the emotional part about it